Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Adam Steele for Hot Pole Studios, and today we are going to look at fixing less than ideal sound sources with the latest version of iZotope's RX. This is RX8. I can hear myself moving around and kind of creaking on the mic a bit, so I'm probably going to end up using RX on the vocal for this after I've finished filming. But in the meantime, let's crack on with this. This video is brought to you by me and us through Patreon. Through supporting us, you get early access to videos and you get my sincerest gratitude. And if you go on a high enough tier on Patreon, we give you one-to-one mixing advice and even Skype sessions where I can help you through anything you are having problems with. Now, let's move on and talk about the thing that is in question. If I move over to that camera. So this slightly messy Premiere project is a result of me messing around in RX to see what the new features are and what's going on. So let's have a look at this. Most of this will be from the 42 Gear Street sessions where me and several other YouTube personalities filmed lots and lots of videos, and there were some teething issues near the start which we had to get through. There were things that just happen, like on one of the film sets, Henning Pauli's studio. It was such a hot day, we had to have the aircon on, and aircon noise can be a real pain to remove from background sounds. There's all sorts of issues that came up that I could look at to fix. So here's the first one. This is the audio from one of the sessions that I did with Ross, the Bulletproof Guitarist. Here's some of the voiceover. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the Bulletproof Guitarist, Mr. Ross Campbell.
Oh, nicely remembered. Yeah.
Thank you very much. But yes, as my viewers will no doubt be aware, I am not. Can you hear there's a really definite kind of noise in there? Maybe a little higher. It's kind of, Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the Bulletproof Guitarist, Mr. Now, if I was to remove that, the first thing that I would do is I would bring up the DeHum from RX. Let's enable this. And I used adaptive mode. I hit play and just let that listen, and it came up, oddly, not at 50 Hertz like I thought it would be, but 469. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the Bulletproof Guitarist, Mr. Ross Campbell.
Oh, nicely remembered. Yeah.
Thank you very much. But yes, we'll removed some of the noise because it did seem fairly consistent. It must have been the fan speed in the air conditioning system. But if I use this button here to turn it on and off, will no doubt be aware I am not an amazing guitarist, and I certainly think that Ross is. But that was the noise that it was removing. By clicking the output hum only, that was definitely removing some of that noise. Now, the next thing that I wanted to use here was the Spectral DeNoiser. Now, what this does, and this one I find is usually quite good to leave in adaptive mode, is this listens for background noise and can remove it. And if you're very gentle with the reduction, it doesn't end up with too many artifacts. So let's hit adaptive mode and play around with the reduction from 0. Much, but yes, as my viewers will no doubt be aware, I am not an amazing guitarist, and I certainly think that Ross is. But I'm kind of the tech nerd that's here to be the one who pushes all the buttons and plays with all the stuff and does the ins and outs of every little thing. Now that already sounds far better to me than the original, but I will go one further. And I will use De-Reverb on top. Now this is absolute genius. I'll leave the reduction at 0 to begin with. There it is. And I will just push this up until the reverb, because it's quite a reverberant room. We were using a shotgun mic, but it was maybe a little too far away from us and we were sharing the microphone between us. And that does mean that it was quite a roomy sound. It wasn't a treated room. It was literally Henning Pauli's living room. So let's try some reduction.
Much, but yes, yeah, as my viewers will no doubt be aware, I am not an amazing guitarist, and I certainly think that Ross is. But I'm kind of the tech nerd that's here to be the one who pushes all the buttons and plays with all the stuff and does the ins and outs of everything. And Ross is here to play guitar and try and make me look good. But it's not just me and Ross, there are 14 of us.
Yeah, 14.
Because there's Henning Pauli from HP42, massive thanks to him.
Now, I've got to say, that alone is incredibly impressive. I'm going to try using this button in Reaper now that can turn everything on and off, just like that.
Buttons and plays with all the stuff and does the ins and outs of every little thing. And does the ins and outs, make me look good. But it's not just me and Ross, there are 14 of us.
Yeah, 14.
And then just to add the cherry on the cake, I used from Ozone a compressor with some significant gain boost. That way, this is what I would do afterwards with a compressor of some kind to bring up the level so that it's nice and high. Because now that all the negative artifacting is gone, I'm not afraid to now push the levels. So now we get this.
Buttons and plays with all the stuff and does the ins and outs of every little thing. And Ross is here to play guitar and try and make me look good. But it's not just me and Ross, there are 14 of us.
Yeah, 14.
Because there's Henning Pauli from HP42.
Now what I'm going to do is hit play again and turn off these three restoration tools, just leaving the compressor on. And then turn them back on one by one, and you'll hear the massive difference that's made.
Buttons and plays with all the stuff and does the ins and outs of every little thing. And Ross is here to play guitar and try and does me look good. And does the ins and outs of... In Ross, there are 14 of us.
Yeah, 14.
Because there's Henning Pauli from HP42. Massive thanks to Henning for putting all this on. And we've got loads of brands that we're going to be working with. I'm playing a free...
One last thing that I'm going to add there is that now that everything's cleared up quite a bit, I can hear that my voice has some significant essing and sibilance. So there's a de-esser that has a very clever spectral mode. And I'm going to play with the spectral mode and see what that does for me.
Buttons and plays with all the stuff and does the ins and outs of every little thing. And Ross is here to play guitar and try and make me look good. But it's not just me and Ross, there are 14 of us.
Yeah, 14.
Because there's Henning Pauli from HP42. Massive thanks to Henning for putting all this on. And we've got loads of brands that we're going to be working with. I'm playing a Friedman for the first time in my life, and this is a hell of a guitar.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't...
And that there, it's still got a little bit of background noise on. I wouldn't want to push the DeNoiser too hard because you do start to get to a point where you can really hear artifacting if you push too hard. In fact, if I back off the artifact control and just push the reduction, let's just hear how far I can push this before the audio starts to have that kind of weird artifacting that overly strong denoising can make.
Buttons and plays with all the stuff and does the ins and outs of every little thing. And Ross is here to play guitar and try and make me look good. But it's not just me and Ross, there are 14 of us.
Yeah, 14.
Because there's Henning Pauli from HP42. Massive thanks to Henning for putting all this on. And we've got loads of brands that we're going to be working with. I'm playing a Friedman for the first time in my life, and this is a hell of a guitar.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't know what I'm playing, but it looks like it's called Stanford?
Yes, from what I heard, Stanford is the sister brand of Maybach guitars.
Right, so other than that, I don't really know anything about this guitar. I don't know how much...
I heard Stanford is...
But all I know is that it felt really good when I first picked it up, so...
And yeah, we were getting a nice slightly...
So that alone is a huge, huge improvement. Now, there are some new features that I get to play with. Let's have a look on this particular track. Where am I looking? There we go. So this is an acoustic guitar that I recorded a few weeks back. Very quickly bashed something out and really should have spent more time looking at the quality of the performance, but as it wasn't ideal. And there's a new module called Guitar DeNoise. Right, so I've picked out an acoustic guitar that was really quite bright, had lots of pick attack. And I don't necessarily want to EQ anything out, but RX now has these very clever little things. So if I hit play, you'll hear a very bright guitar with lots of pick and a little bit of a squeak. And again with the squeak reduction and pick reduction. Those squeaks are practically gone, and the pick, I'll turn the pick on and off. If you wanted to kind of subtly sit an acoustic in a mix, this might be really useful. I turn the reduction up and you'll hear this become just one homogeneous note. Which is obviously way too much, but you might want to go crazy in some sort of creative way. Who knows? And then there's the amp noise reduction, which if I can find an amp. Okay, so here's an amp where it's very loud and it's got a lot of yoing yoing. There's a modulation on. If I turn this amp noise off, you'll hear this. If I turn this on and learn it, that's now entirely gone. Now let's play a bit of this. Now that is very loud, almost clipping, one might say. So I'll bring in DeClip. And what this can do is this can, if there are any, especially a couple of these bits where it's really loud, I can now save this WAV file. So you see there's a bit of clipping. I'm going to turn the makeup gain down so you don't all go deaf. But watch it where it says clipped intervals repaired. Rescue the audio wave. So that just saved 1,600 little clipped intervals. That is genius. And in this case, it's kind of hard to tell because it's a distorted guitar anyway. But I've found that on slightly clipped like voiceover boom mic type things, or you know, where you've got something that just was on that cusp but was just a little too far, it can absolutely save you. Like this guitar piece. This is me and John Brown in one of the other studios, and let's just say, for argument's sake, that we lost the audio from the actual amp itself. We didn't. This is actually audio off the shotgun microphone, which was gain staged for our voices. But let's just say that for whatever reason, this is all we had. It's clipping. It's obviously clipping, and that wasn't a problem on the day because that was not the intention, but that was a byproduct of us playing the amp relatively loud in the room with the intention of actually cutting out this bit and using just the amp sound in the edit. So listen to this. Oh, the other side, these are identical sides. This is cranked, and check this sludge. So you can see on the WAV file where it's obviously clipped, and it doesn't sound great. And that's where I used another copy of Ozone to take out a lot of that low end and that kind of resonance, just as you might do with a stock EQ. And suddenly I brought this to almost a usable kind of point. I mean, I've certainly heard better guitar sounds than that. That's kind of borderline difficult to use, but this is just a case of giving you examples of restoration. And luckily for me, I did actually have, go away Ozone, the proper, I had the proper capture of the audio, so this wasn't necessary. But the fact that these options are available to me is absolutely brilliant. There's mouth DeClick. So if you're one of those people who has a lot of on a microphone, there is a special way of getting rid of that now.
The problem was solved.
Fucking YouTubers.
I had a problem, I fixed the problem.
This one.
Where is it?
Chris gonna be sitting there?
Yeah. There's not really any gaps. It's just like, how filthy can I make this note sound?
Yeah.
And it really does it really.
See, those horrible noises. This is adaptively taking those out with one swift move. And then there is one that I saw, which was voice DeNoise, very specifically tailored to the human voice. So let's just see what have we got. Light auto denoising dialogue. Let's see how this sounds.
Yeah, extremely when we've got these gain settings going, but it's nothing that a noise gate won't fix.
Exactly. That's like with fuzz. It's like you don't really have gaps.
Yeah.
You're sort of just trying to, like, if you listen to like bands like Carne or even Sun, or even to a degree Cult of Luna.
Yeah.
There's not really any gaps. It's just like, how filthy can I make this note sound?
Yeah.
And it really does it really well, doesn't it?
Well, it's also that kind of tone where you can play a big chord and then like check your calendar for when you're changing chord to the next one.
So you can hear me and John Brown there talking nonsense about the Jupiter Effects Omacht amp, which the video for that is coming very soon. If it hasn't already come out, it may well have done by this point. And yeah, some of these plugins are absolute lifesavers. There's a deplosive, which I certainly intend to use. There are some sources, especially when I get sent audio files from someone recording a voiceover at their own house, for instance, where I can use this and just magically remove plosives. There's so much to go at, it's almost dizzying trying to show you all this. And of course RX has the sample rate converter. If you have something that's at the wrong sample rate and you want the absolute highest conversion quality, then that's all in there as well. So that is as much as I can show you in one day without going overly dizzy, because RX is incredible. And there are so many times that I've found need to use previous versions of RX. And as long as you don't go overly heavily handed on any particular one of these modules and try and use a bit of each one, you can get some incredibly usable results that can save otherwise completely unusable audio. And that's the highest recommendation I can give it. Big thanks to the guys at iZotope for sending RX over for me to demonstrate, and keep your ear to the ground for more from iZotope, because there's always more. RX8 came out today, I believe, so head out and get that if it's what you need. You've seen it in action here, and a lot of my friends in the YouTube world swear by it. In the video post-production world, I have lent on RX very heavily in the past, and it's a lifesaver. So, ladies and gentlemen, check that out. One more time, thank you everybody for watching. Check out the Patreon, subscribe, check out our Reaper tutorials, all the 42 Gear Street videos that are out at the moment, and all the other fun stuff. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye. Hey everyone, that might be the end of the video, but if you fancy carrying on this conversation, we have a Discord server, link is in the description. We're also on Patreon, which is something you can really help us with. We also are on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at Hot Pole Studios. See you there.